Then, what do you do with crops after you've harvested them? You can't keep them all to yourself. You can't eat it all. It'll go bad. You take it to the market, right? You take it to the merchants, then go to the marketplace where everyone is well, if you actually look at the next sign is Libra, which is called Tula Rashi. Tula is the scales. The scales is a scale of justice and fairness, but it's also when you go to the market and you put food on the scale, you know exactly how much you're going to pay for that thing. So it's about balance and fairness and agreements. So it's an air sign again, we're repeating the cycle. It's ruled by Venus. So Gemini is an air sign ruled by Mercury. We have a different combination here of air and Venus. So Venus is about luxury goods, any sort of good actually, services or things that make our life easier, more convenient, but we're sort of doing the buy-sell trade with the air quality. Also, in the cosmic man, this rules the sex organs. So, and when you're going through, this is also the 7th sign of the Zodiac, which is halfway through the Zodiac. So you have the first house, which is you, the first sign, which is Aries. Second house, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th is the other side of the horizon line. So this is, you have the ascendant or the rising sun, and then you have the descendant, the setting sun, which is the opposite, right? For balance, you need the opposite. So it talks about relationships, right? And it's also ruled by Venus. So Libra is love to love, right? And there are rules within love and there are rules within business that you have to abide by, which is all about the air sign. So basically it's all about social conduct, but in a very kind of non-aggressive, non-confrontational way like Venus. And a very famous Libra ascendant person was Gandhi. It was that sort of non-violent, like making social change and all about improving the quality of relationships. They make their mark on society. Scorpio is the next sign. It's a water sign, very different from Cancer because it's ruled by Mars. Mars rules Aries. We did talk about this. The first sign was a fire sign ruled by Mars. This is a water sign ruled by Mars. Very different quality because still waters run deep with this one. And again, you have this kind of Mars energy, which is about very protective. Same with Cancer, they like to protect the families. Scorpio is like all about protecting, well, it's a martial sign, so they're the soldiers, basically. But it's done in a way that they're more about protection of themselves. And I'll show you why. Because it's ruled by a scorpion. Vrishaka is the, Vrishaka Rashi is the Scorpio sign. It's a little bug. It's tiny. Yes, it has a stinger, it is poisonous, but it has this fear of being crushed because it's so small. And it's also an animal that has an exoskeleton. It has its skeleton on the outside, so there's no other form of defense or protection other than its stinger. So it can be reactive, that water element of emotional reactivity, which is the Mars. So that's one thing. And I think that also when we talk about the higher aspects of a sign versus the lower aspects of the sign, someone who's very evolved isn't going to be constantly reacting to things in people. They're going to be more self-contained and be able to transmute and heal. They can be actually the most powerful healers. They make great psychologists. They make great healers because they can go deep within the psychology. That's the water element. And the courage comes with Mars. So let's talk about Danas. Danas Rashi is Sagittarius. It's another fire sign ruled by Jupiter. We haven't seen a Jupiter-ruled planet yet. This is the first one we've come across. Jupiter is all about expansion. It's about hope. It's about sort of this idealism as well. It can be a visionary. When it's fire, it's idealized visions gone wild, gone rampant. They can be motivational speakers. They have a large presence. people that are very Jupiter oriented, especially fire can be very passionate. So and it's all about upliftment. Now, let's take a look at this sign. So Donis is like the archer, right? They have a focal point, they have a point to make, but they're usually aiming high. They've got high dreams, high goals, high visions. They are able to usually hit their mark with what they're fighting for. Now, another symbol can be the centaur, or it's basically like half man, half horse with the bow and arrow, but it's actually a man riding a horse. And the original weapons, I don't know, before guns were invented, they had these like crossbows. So they have the bow and arrow. So this is basically like, they're also soldiers because of that fiery element. So if you see like these like old war movies with people galloping on horses and they've got this thing, that's what this is all about. So they can be very philosophical, very high-minded. It's the 9th house of higher education, philosophy. They tend to have very bright ideas and just be a positive force in the world. Let's see what else. Okay, Capricorn is called Makara Rashi. It's another earth sign. It's ruled by Saturn, and this is the first sign that we have now ruled by Saturn. It's a very practical and serious course through life because Saturn gives gravitas, it gives weight. And if you're looking at the planets that rule these signs, Saturn is the outermost planet. And the planet itself has rings around it. It has its own boundary. It's saying, hey, this is the boundary of the zodiac. And when you've moved through creation and birth of life, which is the sun, and then you move through all of the planets, and then you get to the last planet of the solar system, you've now moved through life and you're becoming towards the end of life, or old age. It's the last stage. So they tend to have sort of more of a self-composed nature with Saturn because they've learned a lot. They're not in a rush or in a hurry. They know it's all about sort of slower moving things. And the symbol is actually a mountain goat, but if you look at some of the old like Vedic artwork, it's actually like a sea goat because it goes from it's like half of it is like a fish or a water creature, and then the top half is a goat. And the reason for this is it talks about the evolutionary stage of going from the depths of the ocean to the top of the mountain and having all of the experiences within life from birth to death. And it's also about, let's see, Earth makes it very practical, Saturn makes it very grounded. So these people can be a bit stoic, actually, in nature. But they're the highest achievers. And when you look, it's the 10th sign of the zodiac. The 10th sign of the zodiac is the pinnacle of the zodiac. It's the zenith. It's the top point in the sky. It's high noon, basically. Can't get much higher than that. So there's rank. There's authority that also comes through this. So it's also about, Earth is a very more pragmatic sign, and Saturn is about going through all of the things to get there. So they're just very hardworking, and they sort of build their own success. The qualities are not random. They're built based upon the elements that they're ruled by, and the planets that also rule them, and the combination of those planets and elements. So when you hear someone's like a Capricorn or an Aquarius, why are they that way? What's the deeper meaning? We're kind of unpacking this. So Kumbha Rashi is the 11th sign of the zodiac. It is Aquarius. It's the water bearer. No, it's not a water sign. It's actually an air sign. If we look in sequence, it follows Earth. And it's also ruled by Saturn. Okay? So instead of being Earth Saturn, it's air Saturn. So a different kind of quality here. Air, again, is a bit more, when you think of air, it's kind of like wind. It's very much up here in the head. It's conceptual. It moves a lot. It has to do about rules and the way that things, it's about conversation and rules and sort of like technical type things, if that makes sense. So air signs are a bit rebellious in a way, and I think this is one of the most rebellious signs. It's kind of like an odd combination though, because it's air and Saturn. Saturn is about practical order and tradition and experience and following tradition. And air is about kind of bucking the system. So this sign is a bit unconventional, or they can seem a bit kind of a contradictory in a way, of like traditional but nonconformist. So these types of people that are born under air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, would be more about social progression, or they're more activists. This one especially, I think, is more of the activists because they're a little offbeat. But they need for groups and connection to the masses. Let's talk about, we can move through, we can ask questions too at the end. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it's called Meena Rashi. It's represented by the fish. And this is a lovely picture, but it's not actually true to depiction. So it's two fish that are actually swimming in opposite directions. This way, I'm leaving everything behind. So this is the last water sign. It's also ruled by Jupiter. So the other water signs were Cancer and Scorpio. One was ruled by the moon, the other was ruled by Mars, but this is ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is much more expansive, again, sort of like the qualities of Sagittarius, but it's less fiery. It's more watery, it's more feeling oriented. Expansive feeling can be something a bit of, like, it's basically touching into spirituality. This is the most spiritual sign of the zodiac because it's the end of life. You've moved through all of the signs of zodiac and now you're at the last sign, and it's kind of like integrating back into God, because it's like, if we think about Vedantic philosophy or Vedic thought, this isn't the only life we live. So other religions, other belief systems have other things that they believe, but we believe in the Vedic philosophy is that we have reincarnation. So the end is really the beginning of something different. There's no end. It's kind of a rebirth. So, and when you think of like water, the last sign of the zodiac, the 12th house, is big oceans or big bodies of water, right? If you go out to sea, or if you, if people are cremated, their ashes can be scattered at sea, that sort of thing. So it's integration back into the cosmos. And if you're looking at the cosmic waters in the sky, like the Milky Way, this is basically what we're talking about here, is reintegration back into a spiritual force. But it's not all about death, because in the life, Pisces, they can be mentors, they can be guides for other people. They tend to have this sort of like, the more evolved types of Pisces, they can be more connected to their spirituality and kind of like put groups together, like spiritual groups, or spiritual leaders. They can be pastors, things like that, where it's more like about community based. But the lesser type of, or lesser evolved or more difficult type of Pisces, if there's difficult aspects in people's charts, can be more about things kind of falling apart, like their life is a mess, they have, addictions, or they just can't seem to have any organization in life, because opposite of Pisces is Virgo, which is all about hyper-organization. So it's the opposite effect. Now, that's also a good point to bring up, is that if you have 12 signs, there's always going to be an opposite sign. So all of the qualities that one sign has, the opposite sign of that has the opposite qualities. They have what you don't have. So opposites attract, but birds of a feather flock together, right? And those birds of a feather are the elements, like the air signs, the water signs.